Today I thought I'd share some of the read-alouds and readers that we are enjoying in our homeschool this month. Reading books out loud together has been a major component of our homeschool ever since we started homeschooling 8 years ago. They range from historical fiction that goes along with our history studies for that month to fun little books like Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle to more serious books like Old Yeller, and so all different kinds. And normally books that hopefully engage all the age groups that we're working with, which for our family is not a big span, but we have gone through seasons where it's difficult to find a book that will appeal to a third grader and a preschooler, and with the third grader being quite advanced with the level of attention span that she has. So we are now actually entering a new phase where my youngest, who is now in grade 3, and his attention span is impressive, and it's opened up a lot more options for us to be able to read more difficult books that would engage my 7th grader and not bore my 3rd grader at the same time. So anyways, right now we are reading The Bully Boys. The War of 1812 is raging, and America has declared war on Britain, and American troops have invaded Canada. This book we just started, we're about 4 chapters in, and already everybody seems to be really enjoying it. And I'm glad because it goes along really well with our Canadian history studies too. As well as doing read-alouds, of course, each of the kids has their own independent readers that they are going through, and usually they're doing about 1 per month, it seems, on average. And we change it up from assigned readers to they get to choose what interests them. And so my 7th grader actually chose A Question of Loyalty this month to read on her own, and I was quite pleased because it came in the package of readers with our Canadian history studies from Northwoods Press, and she's really enjoying it. So it's also supplementing the Canadian history studies, so of course that's great. My 5th grader son is enjoying Kite Fighters right now. This one he did not choose. I chose this one for him after the last few books that he had chosen on his own. So I wanted to challenge him with something a little bit harder, and this fit it. It was challenging for him to get into. This book is part of the Core F from Sunlight, and so it's set in Asia. The Kite Fighters by Linda Sue Park. If you're familiar with any of her works, she writes Long Walk to Water, I think it's called, and A Single Shard. And both of those books I've read, and she's an excellent writer. And my older daughter read this book at the beginning of the year and enjoyed it, and I wanted my son to be a little bit challenged, and he struggled to get into it, but I'm glad he stuck with it because now he's actually volunteering little bits of information about the story to me, and I always love it when my kids tell me about the books they're reading instead of me trying to get information out of them by asking questions. So I'm glad he's reading this one. My 4th grader is reading The Secret of the Sealed Room, and this we got as part of the read-alouds package for Core C through Sunlight. And we read this together years ago when my oldest daughter was in grade 2 or 3, I can't quite remember, but my 4th grader picked this up, and she really likes to challenge herself with difficult reads, and this one didn't surprise me that she chose it. It is historical fiction based on the young Benjamin Franklin, and books like this with, no pictures and quite thick, they don't intimidate her at all, so she is really enjoying this book. Finally, my 3rd grader, who is quite advanced, he is grade 2 age, but he is trying to maybe live up to where his older siblings are at. I'm not quite sure, but he also is very motivated to try harder stuff. So he is reading like crazy for school. mostly. And so he has chosen Caleb's story, which is part 2 in the Sarah Plain and Tall series. He didn't read Sarah Plain and Tall and just wanted to jump right into where the story picks up from Caleb's point of view. A lot of journal style writing in this book, and just a really sweet story. My 5th grader and I read this together last year, and it was a really nice story. So that is what we are reading in our homeschool this month. I am not going to include the books that I am currently reading, as it's quite a long list. For some reason, I always find myself reading through several books simultaneously, so maybe I will write about that on a blog post or do a separate video on that. I'm not sure, but that's it for now.